5th attempt because Jean keeps on coming out.
Would you like the label?
Yes, dear, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not starting over this time. Jane has come out here to check on me. Even kiddos come out here because, like, they know it's cold and, like, they don't like that I'm cooking out here. But, like, I feel like it's more out of the way and it's still set up from Thanksgiving. So, Jane and I have been sleeping in somebody's laundry room. Kiddo has an actual bedroom. He's fine. But the laundry room wasn't exactly meant to be a bedroom, so it's better than being homeless, and it is probably bigger than some laundry rooms. It's not huge. It's not, it's still just kind of a, but I'm still grateful for it. I'm not grateful for some of the social situations that have arisen, but I am grateful for the things that there are to be grateful for. Anyway, we move into an extended stay hotel on the 1st. That's our check-in. Tomorrow I have my permit test for my driver's license. So the hotel room is going to take pretty much everything we have, though. Right now I'm trying to scramble and figure out a way to either re-get a new ESA letter or get a copy of the old one. I don't think that anybody from the old site that I went to for mental health stuff is going to respond because I don't receive that insurance anymore. Also, I think I told them off pretty strongly because they kept on treating me as if I was still in the state, even though I gave them ample notice, simply because I refused to agree to them not discharging me. Like, there's absolutely no reason for this except they apparently have a policy, and I'm like, I don't care. It is my right to say discharge me. I don't care if your policy doesn't care about my rights. I do have a right to say, I don't want to work with you anymore. Discharge me, even if it shouldn't even take me moving out of state for that. But they actually told me, if you don't sign this paperwork, we will treat you like a missing person. Even though they've got ample notification that I am not even in the same state anymore. That's bullshit. Right now, I am going to use some leftover cornbread with corn in it. I used flax meal and I used a little flax meal mix. Basically, you use flax meal, you mix it with some cold water, and you can substitute for eggs. So I was able to make cornbread, and I put actual corn in it, because why not? Anyway, tonight, I'm gonna take some leftover turkey, and I am basically making gravy with some of the drippings. I have shoved everything that I can, playing Tetris, into the freezer, our tiny freezer over here, because this is ours. I have the rice bucket in front of it to stop it from busting open because it is so full. So, it seals, but the first time that I tried to close it, it popped open, so rice buckets. Oh yes, that right there is what I used to cook the turkey. It works really well. the one that we used to have burnt out, and that one was actually $15 at the thrift store. Friend got it, and we just paid them back for it afterwards, because obviously nobody planned for that. They were just like, hey, yours burned out, and this is here, and it's $15. They were able to plug in and make sure that it's turned on, and we were able to use it to make turkey. I am probably also going to use it while we're at the hotel to make Christmas dinner, which is probably going to be, or Yule. I call it Yule, they call it Christmas. It's easier culturally. Everybody knows what Christmas is. Even if most of it is basically Yule. So I'm trying to figure out what we can fit in the hotel room with us. I think we're gonna have to try and figure out some things. Like, we're taking our freezer, obviously, but it's a little studio hotel room. Like, there's enough room for everybody to sleep in separate spots, but I was thinking of trying to get a hold of, like, some tape. Excuse me while my brain does the dumb. That really silvery tape that you use for a bunch of things. Duct tape. I was thinking I'm gonna try to use duct tape to kind of make a sort of screen. I may also try to just make sure the furniture isn't bolted down so that we can, like, kind of arrange it so that there's more privacy. Because, you know, we need privacy, and also Kiddo is, you know, he's at that age. He wants to be able to get away from us. And yeah, I mean, that's about the size of it.
And if I don't know out here,
I'm journaling right now. How about you give me 5 minutes? Hey, hug? Okay, that direction. As in downstairs. Not that direction. Downstairs. I summoned him by talking about him. No, he goes between being extremely up your butt, to leave me alone, which I assume is just puberty at this point. I mean, that's just puberty. Mom, I love you. Aw, I hate you. Leave me alone. That's where we're at. So I figure his dad and I will appreciate some sort of way to establish some sort of barrier for some kind of privacy. And Kiddo will probably also. So if we can manage to, like, take, I don't know, like the plant shelves, maybe a bookcase or something, or maybe just this stuff, just this, then I think not only can we make it, like, kind of be like, because that's pantry stuff right there, that we can also kind of, like, establish it as, like, a sort of barrier. I mean, some of it maybe, not all of it. I'm just brainstorming. I wouldn't do the shelf on top of the freezer as a barrier, though. That needs to be against a wall, or at least near one, because while it is pretty stable, it wouldn't be if somebody were knocking against it. In other words, I've seen Kiddo destroy chairs, and while that is stable under any other circumstance, it's not survive Kiddo stable, so it needs to be somewhere where he's not going to, like, mess with it because he's mad, or just, you know, because. Here we go. Alright. I have some stuff to add to this. It takes a little bit longer to heat up on the ironically, we weren't originally supposed to like have this downstairs and stuff, but then they allowed it because I don't know. The husband is really weird with stuff, really controlling about certain things, and I'm actually really glad that we're getting out of here. He's not very nice to my cats. He's nice to his, but he's not very nice to mine. And I take some offense to that. There's also where there's kind of like a status quo where we've just sort of been started to be blamed for everything. Like something gets broken or missing, we're not even asked. It's just kind of accused that kiddo did it even if it's not his MO. I had to defend him in one such case because like that was the insinuation. That tastes weird. I assume it's supposed to taste better once it's kind of thickened. Anyway, basically, I'm making gravy. I'm going to dump this into it. There's going to be more gravy than meat, obviously. Right now, I'm trying not to think, because I know what we absolutely have to take with us, and I know what the wants are. And I know kiddo wants to take his toys and his books and his Legos. Needs to be set in a different category than toys, because if he had to leave all of his other toys behind for Legos, he would. So, separate categories, because above anything else, he wants to take the Legos. And the books. So, we're gonna try. I think we should try and take the books, at the very least. I think even if we have to leave them in like a corner of the hotel room in boxes, we should take them. Because it at least gives us access to them. We're not going to have an oven, but we are going to have a toaster oven. That is ours. We are taking our kitchen appliances. We're not just going to live out of a microwave. We have been able to supplement for our kitchen thus far, for the most part, when allowed to, when the husband is not playing God, and his wife is not using him as a shield because she just doesn't like something. Because we found out that the fit about the toaster oven was because she didn't like it and just didn't want to admit it, or have a normal conversation about it. It's just like, I don't like this, so you must follow my edict. It is very much a I don't care what you are physically capable of, this is what I require of you sort of situation. So we've actually been trying to get out of here because it just has progressively gotten worse. Because I already push my body. And also, every single time she says that he's going to make a ramp, he doesn't. Even just a temporary ramp. I don't even care if it's just a short piece of wood. I don't care. And that step is actually pretty steep for my walker. It is going to break my walker. It's not just hard on my body, it is hard on the equipment that allows me to even get around. So there we go. This is on medium. until thick and bubbly. I guess this is supposed to help thicken it. It came with the turkey, so it's actually just supposed to. I figured we can't put it in the freezer. There's no space left for it. We might as well use it. Anyway, we're using leftover cornbread. We're just going to have it with... Hi, honey.
Tater tots are done.
Okay, honey.
Alright, can Chris come up? Do you need help?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm just babysitting
Okay.
the stuff.
Alright, I love you.
I love you too, dear.
Are you not journaling?
No.
Alright.
Tell you what, I'll wrap it up and then I'll call you.
Alright.
Thanks, sweet.
He spent most of the day telling me that he needs space, and I've given it to him as much as space allows, because we're not in a very big space now. We're hunkered down in the basement. There is one bedroom down there, and that is where Chris is. But we're in the laundry room, which is not supposed to be a bedroom. It is not. Let's just say that there are things that you would normally require for a bedroom that, I mean, it's not unsafe for like kiddo to wander into or anything. It's nothing like that. Like, there's drywall and stuff. It's just, there's no window. There's fire safety to consider. Like, none of that stuff is met. Like, we knew that in the first place. It's just, it's extremely stifling. And, yeah. So anyway, kiddo spent most of the day telling me that he wants me to be, you know, give him space, leave him alone. Usually whenever I tell him to do his one chore. Or just tell him no, that he cannot do this thing that he wants to do, or that he can't come out here without supervision. Which has actually saved us so far, because he's already been accused of breaking something that he didn't break, but because he is never out here without supervision, we were able to, or I was able to say, hey, he definitely didn't do that. Not only this, however, let's look at the other things, which annoyed the person that this was being said to exponentially, most likely. However, I wanted to make it absolutely clear that if she didn't believe my words, at least these are the ways that we know in his behavior. Because her husband has acted like anything I say must be subject, even though I have never lied to either of them. Personally, I suspect it's because I accidentally, because I was unaware that they did not have a specific arrangement for something. It was just something that they did. I didn't know that she didn't know that he had a specific way of thinking, and he said it in front of me to me. Not just in front of me, but to me. And Jean, like, there was part of it that was said to me, but there was a part that was said to him. You know, one of those weird sentences, you know, where you're looking at two different people and you're like, because I said it to her and I was like, you know, like, it was casual conversation. It was just referencing it, like, assuming everybody knows. Because I assume that, like, this was something that they had talked about, because they've been to, like, couples therapy and stuff, and, you know, it's nothing that you should ever decide without speaking to one another. You know, where it's her job to do the housework because you go to work. Like, that sort of thing. Which was his excuse for why he didn't really help while he was at home. And why he was skipping out on something that he maybe should have helped with. And he was trying to get Jean to behave like him. And Jean was like, nope, I'm still helping. But, like, he didn't say it like that. And I just keep on trying to think about multiple things, because she didn't act like that until I had been down in the basement for about a month because I was sick. Like, I hadn't come up. Like, there was no coming out to do anything. There was nothing. I was just down there. Everybody else could leave. I had to stay because I was sick and there's a baby in the house, and it is difficult for me to go up the stairs in the first place. I need help doing that in the first place. So that also means being in close proximity with somebody that I could make sick. So I was sick. And I was really sick because I kept on getting reinfected because it was a cold all the kids had, including ours. So theirs had it, Chris had it, and personal space is something that we are often working on. So, whenever he was little, air hug worked, but now it's just kind of like, I don't care if I get sick. But the thing of it is like, he doesn't get as sick as I do. So I get very sick in those situations because I keep on getting reinfected. And colds, you know, they're vicious like that. They're not by themselves extremely bad, but my immune system is challenged in the first place, and getting sick repeatedly is especially bad. So that last time I spent way too long sick. So, yeah, and I probably only got like reinfected like once or like twice. I don't know. All I know is that everybody else was like barely sick or just had the sniffles for a couple days, and I was downstairs sick for a month. Anyway, before that, everything was fine. It was fine in all directions. Nothing had happened. Afterwards, there was a whole different narrative whenever I came up those stairs, and it was jarring and weird. And like the first time I said anything to one of the kids, like not to like, it was suddenly like, how dare you insinuate that my children would do anything? They are perfect angels. Blah, blah, blah. Like, they've told their kids to limit interacting with Chris because, you know, they're saying like he will accuse them of things that they didn't do. And he has never accused them of anything they didn't do. Any situation where there are situations where all the kids have been involved. All of them, not just Chris. And there are situations where it was just their kids, or just Chris, or just one of their kids, you know, standard fare. But there hasn't been a situation that would warrant the idea that Chris would accuse them when they didn't do anything. Because his way of lying is a lot different than their kids. So one of their kids will plan it out. He will plot out an entire story in his lies. Chris just says, I didn't do it, you're a liar. He will kick the wall in front of you. I didn't do it, you're a liar. He will just get louder. He doesn't come up with a more complex story. Sometimes he tries, but it's usually just as ham-fisted. So, he's a terrible liar, because it is always obvious when he's lying. If you know him. There are situations where he can lie to like a stranger or something, and if you don't know us, it'll sound plausible. But if you know us, and you've literally seen him interact or us interact with him, you'll be like, okay, no, I've seen this, this is bullshit. So it's one of those things. So I'm still plotting different brainstorming on how to make the space, you know, because we're gonna probably end up renewing our time and spending a good 1 to 3 months there. I already know it's gonna be more than one, but we couldn't pay for more than one at once. So, yeah. We could not pay for like 2 or 3 months a month. I already priced that out. This one, it costs less than some others, but it has like none of the amenities. It is, it has a kitchenette though, so we will have stovetop burners and a microwave, which, to be fair, we do not have a microwave right now, so we will just be like adding things to the space, you know, like, and trying to figure out how to make it work in the space. We're just going to take all the space saving techniques I have, which is fair because I've used a ton of them here. It is nothing I am not adept at. So we just have to try and figure out how to make it not stifling. I'm also hoping that there's a bus stop nearby. Because if there's a bus stop nearby and it's not stairs, I could take Chris to the library, like, without having to ask for a bunch of help and go through a bunch of stuff. We just take the bus and go to the library. And we could even do some of our schoolwork there, if that's what he wants to do. Like, I'm cool with it. And that's just where it's at with that. Like, if we need to get out, you know, for a little bit, they've got libraries here that have straight up places for kids to just play with other kids. So get them out socializing, meeting new kids, new friends, stuff like that. Here, I can't really do that. We're on a hill. I can't even make it like halfway to the bus stop. Even going downhill. I would hate to figure how it would work if I tried to go up the hill getting from the bus stop. It's just... We need to go through boxes, though. They did say that they would hold some of our stuff until we could get a storage unit or our own place, period. We still need to go through, though, and take as much of our stuff as we can. Like, we at least need to figure out the things that we cannot go without. Obviously, pantry. We have to take that stuff with us, because the less we have to spend on food, the better. Also, some of the stuff I brought with us whenever we had to move. It's like, we have to leave furniture behind, but we are not leaving food. Like, we lost a lot of our dishes in the move, too. We lost a lot. We lost pretty much everything, except, like, a very small number of things. Anyway, we are working it out with what we take with us. And I'm already looking at this going, kitchen stuff is gonna take up some space. And I'm trying to figure out how to get it not to take up space. Or to take up as little as possible. And I've got some ideas for that. Normally whenever you go to a hotel, you don't take a pantry of items with you. Even a small pantry of items. Granted, what I call small pantry of items, would be, like, enough to eat on for, like, 6 months for me. But then again, I don't eat as much as I look like, so it's about a couple, like a month or two for the entire family. So, like, we're banking on not having to buy a lot of food. So we're bringing a lot of food with us. We're bringing all of our food with us. Everything that we don't eat, we're not going grocery shopping, and we're kind of due for it because I've been working on trying to, like, build up rice and stuff. I was actually trying to work up to the point where we could get to a month where, like, we didn't need to buy food. We're just doing this with higher rent now. It's gonna cost us almost $1,500. However, that is including utilities, internet, beds, a kitchenette, and that'll be for a month. We will have to like renew, obviously, before so that's a thing. But it'll be our own space, at least for a little while, until we can find something else. Utilities were a big reason why we looked for a place that was 1,000 or under. Because you know what they don't tell you? There's actually a lot of costs that go on top of renting. There's renter's insurance, which is often required. There is the deposit. There's a lot that goes into it. It has to be something that you can pay that first month off. It also has to be something that you can sustain. Like buying food, cooking, can you afford to heat the space, cool the space? Like, you have to look at a lot of things. It is not just, can I afford the rent and eating? It is, there comes a point where, like, with our old place, we were choosing, or at least Jean was choosing without my knowledge. Do I pay the utilities or do I pay the rent? Do I pay the utilities and make sure that my family has food on the table? Or do I pay the rent? And while there are things that like I could have applied for help for us, had I known, I wasn't told. And while the landlord did put us in that position on purpose, I don't believe he thought of like the extent of it. Like, he just saw it as a way to get more money from the government. Which, by the way, he didn't get, because the program that we applied to ran out of funding. They transferred our info to another one by the time we were called, we'd been here for almost 2 months. We did not have one specific piece of paperwork that got lost in the move. They did not want to wait for us to get it. The deadline was 4 days, and the process to get it took about a month. Because we needed very specific paperwork to get other paperwork to get other paperwork. Like, okay, there's layers of it, you know? You just can't magic it into existence. Boiling. It's time to turn it down. Try and get it to thicken up. It's not really thickening. It's supposed to. See if turning it down helps. Anyway. That's where we're at. So, I think, yeah. So whenever we get there, part of my plan is to kind of make soup a lot. Lots of rice porridge too. Got a whole bucket of rice. Maybe not all the time so that the rice actually lasts, but so I got it and I prepared this to be able to store it. So I froze it for 3 weeks in the freezer. It's a lot of rice. So, like, I was able to fill up that bucket with it. So, it's probably about, it's a lot of rice. So, that bucket with the green lid, that is rice. That is, white rice was cheaper than brown. So it's a mixture of the two, because brown rice is technically better for you. But white rice is cheaper. So it's a mixture of the dried rice, both kinds. So I should be able to do quite a bit with that. And then we've got like some oats and pinto beans, and it's not like amazing. Like, it's what I could do with an extremely limited budget. So we've been doing groceries for $100 and under, for the most part. Like, the first couple times we went grocery shopping after we got here, we had to spend more, because we had like no baseline anymore. We didn't have very much beyond canned food and the small freezer, and we were missing, like, I was completely out of flour and stuff like that. So my flour is not going to last quite as long as the rice, because it's actually due to like add another layer to it. But I'm not going to do that for now. There were some things I managed to have in reserve, and there were a lot of things I didn't. And the things I didn't were things that I would normally rely on for cooking, and not having to buy every week. So because we'd had to move really quick, we hadn't, and there wasn't really any warning because I didn't know. Yeah. So anyway, down here we've been spending generally less than $100 each time we go grocery shopping. Other than those first couple times. So that's it, basically. So a lot of that relies on us being able to kind of cycle through certain things, though. So, like, you don't buy cheese every time you go grocery shopping. You don't buy rice every time you go grocery shopping. There's some things that you cycle every other time you go grocery shopping. There's some things that you might get once a month. And there's some things that you might not have to buy for months. However, a method to make rice kind of last longer, basically, so if there's anything in it that might compromise the rice as a whole, you freeze it for 3 weeks. And that will kill... My brain is scattered right now. I promise I know the name of it. Weevils. It'll kill the weevil eggs. So you don't end up with weevils. And if you are dumping rice in a big bucket, that's especially bad. Actually, it's still bad if you just have them in bags. We've actually had that happen before. I remember how devastating that was whenever it was beans, just dried beans. So yeah, anything that you're gonna store like that, put it in the freezer for 3 weeks. It'll kill the weevil eggs. And then you can store it for a little bit longer than you normally would, because you don't have to worry about something hatching. It's just a method that I picked up somewhere along the way during adulthood. Because my grandmother certainly didn't know any tricks like that. My maternal grandmother actually rarely even cooked with beans or rice. Or lentils. The only time she even used, like, split peas and stuff, like dried peas, was split pea soup after having ham, which was like once a year. It wasn't a staple in the kitchen, although she did have like an entire like cabinet out in the laundry room where there were like 3 large shelves of just canned food. To be fair though, my grandparents came from an area of the country where you could get snowed in, and it was recommended to have like so much food. I did not get my pension for making sure there's always food on hand from that. I got it from starving, literally starving. Often growing up, there was plenty of food, but I wasn't allowed to eat it. So I would just kind of always be hungry. Food was there, I just wasn't allowed to eat it. And then I'd get in trouble, like, majorly. If, like, I took a pack of crackers and they found out. They did not always find out. Usually I had to take more than one for them to know, because my grandfather took them to work. And they didn't actually count them, because their finances weren't so dire that they had to know exactly how many of what that they had until they needed to know what they needed to buy. So there was like a lot of time where that's what I was mostly living on, because my grandmother wouldn't even update the money to send me to school with for lunch after they didn't qualify anymore. Like, the school basically said, you don't, this isn't there's no qualifying. Like, for a while I qualified for the free lunches, and then whenever I didn't, she actually had to send me with lunch money or lunch. I wanted to take lunches, but the argument was that I wasn't allowed to because it would cost more. And then she sent the amount of money for the lunches until the price went up, and then what I was sent with did not go up. So a lot of the time it was an impossible situation. Sometimes I didn't get breakfast before I went. Sometimes it actually wasn't anybody's fault, and sometimes it was. My grandfather did not starve me. He just had the idea that 2 Pop-Tarts should be enough for a kid going through puberty and like losing a bunch of blood everywhere. And usually I was pretty hungry. I was also on medications that made me hungry too. So a Pop-Tart was not going to do anything. If anything, it almost made me hungrier. That's what that did. So sometimes I would even I would ration out the lunch money. And the times that I did otherwise immoral things, such as go in there, find the money that was supposed to be for me, that wasn't being used for me, take $20, ration it out, make it so that I could get the breakfast and lunch. Even if it was just a drink at lunch, you know, just a green tea to get through the rest of the day from one of the machines, you know, something like that. I'd usually get chips because it was something cheap that filled the stomach. But during those times, I would get breakfast at school too. I would take that Pop-Tart. I would be so very hungry. And then I would get one of those tiny breakfast burritos at school. It wasn't very big, and I was kind of still hungry afterwards, but it was enough that wasn't my only focus. Ironically, my grades went up whenever I did that. Children who are hungry are not paying attention as well, and children that literally feel like their insides are eating them from the inside out are definitely gonna have trouble. So, and I already had medications that made that hard in the first place, so actually earlier on it had even made it impossible, so I was already disadvantaged in that area, so feeling like I was starving on top of it wasn't a great thing. It looks like this is about done. I should probably actually wrap this up. I got a little bit carried away. Kiddo will want to see this start to get to the point where it needs to be, so I'm going to wrap this up. I know it's been a while since I video journaled. They're not home right now. And oh yes, I called a hotline last night because I needed somebody to talk to because I've been terrified. Well, because we can't find the ESA letter. And they don't allow pets. And I have to be able to take them with me. It is extremely necessary. I can't have so many different medications. The only thing that works is having an ESA. And I have basically 3 of them. One is in the end of life cycle, and the other one is getting there, and one of them is still learning, but he's getting it. Lucky and Gorgeous are about as close to a bonded pair as they're ever going to get. I don't think they're quite as close as kittens that grew up together, like as kittens, but every once in a while you'll catch them cuddling, and then they'll realize that you're paying attention to them cuddling, and then they'll separate. Like, you did not see that. And Gorgeous kind of gets along with both of them. It's actually Lucky who's kind of like, get away from me, you giant usurper, at Maggie sometimes. But I think that has more to do with the fact that Lucky's vision is going. He's still healthy enough. But it's an adjustment on top of the stress of, everything. We will get through this, and then we will get back on our feet. It might take us a little while, but we will get it. We at least know where to go, or who to ask about where to go if we don't know where to go for food boxes and stuff if we need it. Which at this rate we might, at some point. I think one of the reasons why we even have as much food as we do, even with everything that I've done, is because whenever they heard that we were staying here, some people brought food boxes. So some of the stuff that I have over there actually came from food boxes. They were like, this is left over from the food box pantry. We heard you had 3 extra people in the house. Here's some food. So that actually helped out a lot. The culture where we're living now is extremely different to Arizona. That sort of thing normally doesn't really happen in Arizona. It's very dog eat dog. Here, it's different. And sometimes, a lot of the time, that's a good thing. There's some things, though, I'm kind of like, I don't know. I think there's problems anywhere. I don't think the problems are as bad as Arizona, but I've heard enough people say I've been to Arizona and I didn't run into that, or I lived there for a few years, I didn't run into it, or I lived there, then I moved away, then I came back and I didn't run into that. And I've run into enough people who did run into that to know that not everybody experiences these same levels of stuff everywhere. So I am very aware that just because we haven't run into it doesn't mean there's not something. Just for now, I get to be grateful that we haven't run into it. And we're just going to try to avoid running into it. So that's where we're at. I think, yeah, he's going to get mad if I don't call him soon. Alright, I'm ending this now. I'm going to stop rambling at camera. Alright,